All right. Good evening, sports fans. It is another Monday evening right here on Fans Only Sports Network. Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy is back in action, ready to go to give you more NFL news and NCAA news today. I am your host, Chet, and of course, joined by my counterpart, Duffy, on the left today. Duffy, how are we doing, my man? My right-hand man back in action, ready to go.
Doing great, man. We're back here today. Another great episode ahead of us. Some more March talk, sports talk. Almost April now, though. Baseball's coming up soon. I know you're a big fan of that. So I had a fantasy baseball draft yesterday as well.
You did?
Tell you about this. I did.
You're gonna have to tell me your team after this,
I'll
because
tell you my pitching staff real quick. Your brother's
Okay.
in the league.
Yeah, my brother told me his team. I like some of the players.
I think it's Kyle Karspek. I think he's the commissioner. Kyle Karspek's the commissioner.
Damn, you guys should have told me to join. I would have joined right away.
I was the last one to join. So.
Okay, let me hear your starters real quick.
All right, so playing D-Blaze week 1. Excited.
He knows baseball too.
My starting pitchers, we got Corbin Burns.
Okay.
He was my second round pick. I have Zach Wheeler.
Wheeler's good.
I have Alek Manoah.
Yeah, Alek Manoah's great.
And back in the day, I think he played for the A's back in the day, right? Or am I mistaken?
No, Blue Jays.
Oh, I'm a casual. My bad.
Let me check.
I have a couple of relievers. I have Devin Williams, a reliever on the Brewers.
Okay, that's a good. Yeah,
Devin Logan Gilbert from the Mariners. Logan Gilbert.
Okay.
Lucas Giolito from the White Sox.
Yep, Giolito's good.
Tyler Anderson from the Angels. I think he was the last pitcher I picked.
Anderson was low-key filthy last year on the Dodgers. I don't know how he'll perform with the Angels, but we'll see.
He's only rostered in 58% of leagues, but he's plus 5% the last week.
Yeah, he's solid.
Tony Gonsolin,
Tony Gonsolin's good.
Because he's banged up right now, but
yeah.
We have Vlad Guerrero, Francisco Lindor, Dansby Swanson, Hunter Renfroe, Jose Miranda, Jake Cronenworth, Sean Murphy.
Okay.
Brian Reynolds.
Love Brian Reynolds.
Brandon Nimmo.
Brandon Nimmo's solid.
On my bench, we got Lars Nootbaar. Don't know who that is on the
What team does he play for?
St. Louis. I have Oswald Pereza. Only rostered in 8% of leagues. I'm gonna have to drop this guy eventually, but
okay.
Let's see if he's any good. I mean, I think my team is okay.
Yeah, that's
fantasy baseball. The difference is between wins and losses is if you just put in your starting pitchers. That's literally it.
Is it a points or a categories league?
Oh, geez, I think it might be. Oh,
if it's categories, then yeah, talk to me about it because actually, categories.
It's so stupid.
Hey, I won a categories league last year, and I was the 6th seed to make the playoffs, and I won the whole thing. I beat teams that had like the Cy Young winners in the AL and the NL, and I beat them to win the whole thing. All matters is that the weeks that you have playing, you guys are hitting home runs, RBIs, runs, your pitchers are pitching like at a high level. You just got to find the guys that really like are sneaky, because I didn't have the greatest guys. I mean, Shane Bieber was a great ace for me, but then I had Robbie Ray, I had Tyler Anderson, I had some bums, dude. I had some like random bums out there that I just like, they went off the whole year for me. Like it was crazy. And then I had some good batters. Like I had a bunch of Orioles players. I had Ryan Mountcastle, Anthony Santander is a name to keep an eye on.
You're a big Orioles guy, huh?
The Orioles, dude, they've had an amazing farm system these last few years. So Gunnar Henderson's going to be a name this year. Adley Rutschman is actually going to be able to play a full season. And honestly, bro, he might be the next Buster Posey if his hype is real.
Catcher?
Yeah, dude. He could be the next Buster Posey. You never know.
He could be. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Obviously, probably a little more baseball talk to come as the season goes on. But of course, we'll hop into what you all came for, which is the NFL offseason talk. We're going to talk about some trades today. Of course, we'll start about the one that really came out of not really nowhere, but it came out officially today. Lamar Jackson himself has officially announced over Twitter, making a very clear message to Ravens fans that he has officially requested a trade from the Baltimore Ravens, that he feels like the two sides could not come to a respectable agreement, and he wants to test the waters to see who will actually make a run for him. Duffy, this is definitely something that we obviously knew was coming at some point, because this has just been at a standstill since day one. And now it's really come to fruition to the point where Lamar Jackson is officially going to tell people, I want out of Baltimore.
Yeah. And not surprised that it happened. I'm just surprised that he said that he asked the team on March 2nd, which is almost 4 weeks ago. And that's just coming out really today, which is kind of shocking to me. But we talked about the last couple podcasts we've made. Lamar Jackson, I mean, I've said a lot about Lamar Jackson on this show, and I'll say it again. This is a guy who doesn't want to play. And I like Lamar. I really do. He's a Hall of Fame talent. He's a game-changing player. We have never seen a guy quite like Lamar Jackson in the league. I mean, you could argue Michael Vick. Well, Michael Vick didn't throw the ball as good as Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Argue other, black quarterbacks who are mobile, or even guys like Fran Tarkenton. But Lamar Jackson, back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons in 2019 and 2020. This guy always done in the league is win, if we're going to be honest. But the last 2 years kind of tainting his persona. I mean, didn't play in December either the last 2 years. Missed the playoffs this season as well, going on 7 weeks of his injury, the sprained PCL, I believe it was. But when that's your resume the last couple of years, and on top of the narratives that he's not a true passer, still has never surpassed. He's only surpassed 3,000 passing yards once. That was in his MVP season. That's 3,000. Maybe I think only once. Yeah. So, sure he's missed some games the last couple of years, but he there's a lot of things around him that don't want to make you give him the total max contract, fully guaranteed contract that like Deshaun Watson got. For example, that's what he was looking for in his free agency, and a lot of teams don't want to give it to him. And I think he's been humbled a little bit this free agency, and a lot of that has to do with him being his own agent, which is kind of an interesting move, trying to negotiate your own contracts here and there, this and that. But ultimately, I'm just surprised it took this long for it to come out. Truthfully, that he wanted an actual trade. I mean, we all knew that he was trying to explore free agency, but now he's got the non-exclusive franchise tag, and which gives him a chance to get traded. So we'll see. I mean, there's some odds on what his next team is going to be. The Patriots today plus 500. That is tied for second with the Ravens. Atop though first, we're tied for third with the Ravens at plus 500. But the team with the best odds right now to trade for Lamar Jackson are the Tennessee Titans, and right behind them are the Minnesota Vikings, which two teams that we've seen in the playoffs the last couple of years. I mean, the Vikings just this past season, but also in 2019. The Titans, I was thinking about this today actually. The Titans were a 1 seed last year. We forget about that. They have a good core, and it's a team that beat Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, his MVP season. So it'll be a big full circle moment, and add to that Titans Ravens rivalry.
Yeah,
but I'm not surprised by this headline today, but it's just crazy that 5 years in the league, you won MVP in a whole bunch of games with this team, gone to the playoffs 4 times in 5 years. I mean, does he have a right to think he should get paid this much? Arguably, but when you're your own agent, and there's a lot of questions around your will to play and both your ability as a true quarterback, true franchise quarterback as well. Only 1 playoff win so far in his 4 trips, 3 of which he's played in. I think he's going to get humbled a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true, and it's definitely kind of just been an interesting story. I mean, we talked about it last week where the last 2 seasons he hasn't played in the month of December, and this year there's a little kind of like sus interactions going on with that, or just actions that were being taken. And of course, Lamar defending himself, which you rightfully have to, but there was some assumption that he was healthy enough to play. He just chose not to because he wanted to get paid. And at the end of the day, the teams decided that, they can only give him as much as they really can. And I don't blame them for doing that. But I mean, they really need him, and he knows it. And he's willing to test those waters. And I mean, the Tennessee Titans would be an interesting place to go because Mike Vrabel has proven that he is one of the more premier coaches in NFL football right now, that he's a coach that can really build a team and actually give it something sustainable to work with. This season was not an example of that because you didn't have a competent quarterback most of the year, and Ryan Tannehill was in and out with injuries, and you had to really get it down to Joshua Dobbs, was it, at the end of the year?
Malik Willis for a couple weeks before that.
Yeah.
They lost their last 7 games. That was a team that was 7-3, had a 4-game lead in the AFC South. Just watch it squander away.
Yeah.
And still almost won the division at 8-9.
Yeah. Lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Like you said, fumbling the ball in the last game of the year. So
yeah. So, I mean, the Tennessee Titans, that could be a place I could see Lamar Jackson land in a way because this is a team that needs to compete with the Jacksonville Jaguars because this team only got better. I mean, last year, they were like the Seattle Seahawks. This year, they were a team that everybody thought was going to be in a rebuild, a slow rebuild, but this team came out of nowhere. They managed to put it together. And not only did they put it together this year, they have more pieces coming next year with Calvin Ridley coming off of a suspension from last year. That's only going to boost the wide receiving core. Evan Ingram getting franchise tagged. He'll be back. ETN in his 3rd year now. Had a fantastic sophomore season after being injured his rookie season. Has really proven that he's going to be a premier back. And then Trevor Lawrence, of course. A quarterback that really has just finally stepped into his own and showed us the true NFL athlete that he is. And that's just something exciting to see. Another destination I feel would be a very interesting landing spot for Lamar, however, I believe is the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts would be a very interesting landing spot. Also an AFC South rival, once again, in terms of the Titans. But this is a team that literally has just gone, it's a revolving door with quarterbacks over there. You get Phillip Rivers, he's gone. Then you get, what's his face? Carson Wentz. And then followed by Matt Ryan. And then what's his face? Who's the backup that ended up taking over at the end of the year or like in the middle of the year?
Ellinger.
Yeah, Sam Ellinger. That it's just, and Matt Ryan did finish the season, had a good game or two here and there, but it's just the Colts, they need a starter. They really do. They need a starting quarterback because they have a solid young wide receiver core. It's not fantastic, but I love Michael Pittman Jr. He's definitely a top 20 wide receiver, in my opinion, in football right now. But
even Alec Pierce.
And Alec Pierce. Yeah.
He's solid. He had a game-winning touchdown one week too, but I like that because the Colts have the capital. They have the 4th pick in the draft, which they're going to take a quarterback with, as we'd imagine, whether it be Anthony Richardson or if they trade up and get CJ Stroud. We don't know. I mean, we'll see how the ball is going to roll the next couple of months or the next month. This is a great draft for quarterbacks, but like you said, there's a lot of uncertainty at the position for the Colts the last few years, and Lamar would give them that consistency, I think. They're currently slated at plus 750 odds to get Lamar Jackson, fifth amongst odds right behind the Patriots, which I'm surprised the Patriots are plus 500. Truthfully, because you gotta be a Patriots fan to know why. I mean, sure, on paper it kind of makes sense, but dude, just would Bill Belichick ever give Lamar Jackson that much money?
Realistically, no.
We had a little quick demo the other year of a mobile quarterback. He goes by the name of Cam Newton, and that was just a shit show.
Yeah.
But I saw there was a tweet today. I was sent it by my boy Ben Catino. Actually, I think it was actually Matt Durkee who sent it. And I sent to them as a result. But it was from a lady named Karen Guregian. She's a beat reporter for the Boston Herald and the Patriots. Robert Kraft said Meek Mill texted him 3 or 4 days ago and said Lamar Jackson wants to be a Patriot. Kraft said it was Bill's decision. I think there was maybe another part of the tweet, but
yeah,
that was a crazy development. I did not think I'd see that today, or cross off my 2023 bingo sheet.
Oh yeah,
Lamar wants to be a Patriot, but you never know.
Yeah,
there's always a lot of rumors regarding Boston sports teams and making trades, and most of which don't come true. But
yeah,
it was crazy to see, and I think that's why the odds are kind of high, because it would A, make sense, and B, that tweet as well. So
yeah, so I mean, when it all boils down to it, The Patriots would be an interesting spot, but there would be a lot that really has to go into this potential trade. And I mean, of course, the Patriots still aren't out of the equation yet for players like DeAndre Hopkins who are still on the market. However, this is just a team that really likes to tease us with the idea of bringing in these types of players, and then it just never truly happens. But I mean, I think it's just at the end of the day with Lamar, if you're going to get him, it's going to come at a price, and it's not only going to come at the price of draft picks, it's also going to come at the price of your cap space, because he's going to dominate a majority of that cap room for years to come if he decides to sign with your team. So it's a tough decision because it's going to be a breaking point for either Lamar or the team that chooses to sign him. It's either you agree to his terms or he has to agree to another team's terms, or even the Baltimore Ravens terms. It's just an endless like cycle that will probably not end until the day of the draft. And I mean, as of right now, he is rostered as a Raven. He is under contract as a Raven with that franchise tag, but it just comes down to if the Ravens will ship him. But I think at this point, they really are probably going to have to do it, because I do not think under this tag he will play next year.
Let's be honest as well. I mean, I forgot what I was going to say. Brain fart. Darn. All right, let's just rewind the last few years. Look at Lamar Jackson's tenure as a Raven. And he's had a great career in Baltimore. We can't deny, NFL MVP once upon a time. But the big thing that I could say about Lamar Jackson's time in Baltimore is that he kind of saved that core in Baltimore. I think you could definitely say that he saved John Harbaugh's job as a Baltimore Raven head coach, because before his MVP year, the Ravens were looking at 4 or 5. They're looking at 5 years without a playoff win, and Lamar comes in and has one of the best seasons of any MVP ever. 14 wins, 1,200 yards on the ground. What are you gasping at?
Oh, I'm just yawning.
My bad. I thought you were like gasping or something.
No, that would have been a weird gasping face.
Yeah, it would have been. But Lamar is the guy who can really change your team around. So if he came to the Patriots, regardless of the cap space, wouldn't you be kind of hyped? I mean, I would be pretty hyped.
I would be too.
Even though he hasn't played in December the last couple of months, last couple of years, his health and body issues are kind of questionable. So are a lot of things about him. But if he became a Patriot, I can't say that I wouldn't be excited.
Yeah, I agree.
Be a complete fallacy.
I agree. Bill Belichick is now 70 years old at this point. He's kind of in a win now mentality. He wants to at least add one more ring to the resume on top of the 6 he already has to really secure himself as he's already basically done it as the greatest NFL coach of all time. So for him at this point, a trade for Lamar Jackson is not out of the equation. It's just going to come down to, does he want to bite that bullet and potentially do something that will forever change this Patriots franchise? So we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell, as it always does. But, of course, time has been telling in terms of this Aaron Rodgers trade, because this trade has basically come to a weird standstill out of nowhere. And you and I have obviously joked a lot about what would happen in this. But it sounds like at this point, the trade will probably happen sooner rather than later. It felt weird considering 2 weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers did go on air on the Pat McAfee show and basically said, I want to be a New York Jet. I want to be. It's just going to come down to the organizations and the Packers getting the compensation they want for me to get moved. So right now, the trade's inevitable, I feel like at this point. It has to happen. It's already been put out there. It would be hilarious if it didn't, but at this point, it's pretty set in stone that this trade will happen.
Yeah. That's what we think. Rodgers says he's intends to play for the Jets next year. A lot of crazy developments with this trade a couple weeks, but it's kind of just finally do it type of thing at this point. There's been a lot of stalling on really both sides, but on the Jets too. The Jets don't want to give them their 13th overall pick in the draft this year, which you'd think would probably be a given for this type of deal, but they want to keep building and try to do whatever they can to keep that first round pick, which is truthfully, first round picks are hit or miss. They either pan out or they don't. 9 out of 10 times. So a guy like Aaron Rodgers, he's proven. He's old, he's up there in age. So both sides make sense in that situation. Like, do we want to give up the first round pick? And also, we want that first round pick if you're the New York Jets or the Green Bay Packers, respectively, in those situations.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? We think it's going to happen, but if it doesn't, where's he going to play next year? And a lot of it is affecting the other landscape of NFL offseason, because the Jets, there was word today that the Jets, would look into Lamar Jackson, but they're trying to get the Aaron Rodgers trade done first. And the Jets, we've seen them be suckers for a quarterback, especially Aaron Rodgers the last few weeks. Now, there's no doubt in my mind they would make a trade for Lamar Jackson if Aaron Rodgers was not on the board and on their mind.
Yeah.
So it's definitely impacting the rest of the offseason in terms of moves. This is really the biggest entree, I think, on every football fan's plate is this move, this offseason. Rodgers, where will he play in 2023? So, not really many developments recently, but that's kind of where I stand on it. I think it's just one of those things that's, going to keep being on every sports network's screen, including our own's. That's what we're talking about it right now. It's relevant. It's Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. It's a sexy topic. 4-time MVP, one of the 7 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, in my opinion. So yeah, time's gonna have to tell still. I really don't know what else to say about this because there's been nothing else. There's been no news besides the Jets don't want to give them their first round pick. So
yeah, and I mean
we'll see how bad the Jets want it.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, if I'm the New York Jets, you're talking about a guy who's about to reach 40 years old. And at that point, everything's off the hook in terms of, the consistency of a starter. At that point, for a quarterback, your career is basically toast. It's about done. And for Aaron Rodgers...
what do you mean? Not really.
Not now. Based in recent memory, Tom Brady's played till he's 45. But with Aaron Rodgers... Yeah, I could see him still play at a high level, but it's not going to be the Aaron Rodgers that we saw a few years ago almost lead the number 1 seed Packers to back-to-back. Well, he led them to back-to-back NFC championships only to lose. And then, of course, last year had a very tough year. You could blame that he didn't have the weapons that he did without Devontae Adams being there. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to this. When you mention Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, if I'm the GM, I want the guy who's going to give me more longevity, and that's going to be Lamar. Lamar, at the end of the day, is that guy who is in his early 20s. He still has a lot to prove in the league, and he's already proved a lot. Aaron Rodgers, though, has a resume as long as my arm. At the end of the day, you know what he's got. You know what he's done. But I feel like if I'm the GM, I'm going to think about that. Time is of the essence here. If I'm getting Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying I want to win, and it's got to be this year. With Lamar, there's time to build that. There's time to have that timed where you go to the postseason and then you miss the playoffs, or you go to the postseason and lose. But with Aaron Rodgers, this is a move to say, I want my team, either way, it's I want my team to win a Super Bowl. But with Lamar Jackson, there's more time. Aaron Rodgers, it's right now. But this is an AFC. But this is an AFC East that's already stacked with talent, probably the most stacked we've seen in our lifetime, because the Patriots were the team that were running everybody over every single year. Tom Brady's best record is against the Buffalo Bills. That team was a joke for years to come. Most of the East was a joke. And now it's the most competitive it's ever been. Yeah. And the Jets are fully aware of that. But this is a decision that could affect them in the long run. And the Packers at this point, kind of bringing it back to Green Bay, they want to make sure they get the right piece for it, because they don't want to have to pay Aaron Rodgers' $58 million bonus that's due, I believe, by September.
It's unbelievable. So a move will have to happen sooner than later. That's a lot of time, September, like you said. But like you said, it's all about getting the right pieces and what to give up as well. It all goes back to that 13th pick in the draft. For a Jets team that lost their last 6 games this past season. They started 7-4, finished 7-10. A lot of that to do with just crappy quarterback play.
Yeah, and as I've read into it a little bit more, it even says that the Packers can't save any money off this contract until after June 1st.
Oh, so you think they might want to stall past June 1st?
They might, but I mean, at this point, if they want to keep the Jets interested, they're going to have to do it, and it stands to reason they're going to have to move him before late April, because otherwise the Jets going to lose interest. Like, that's just going to happen. It's just one of those things where it's like, relationships. You talk to somebody for a little while, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know. It's not feeling right anymore. That's what's going on here. Both these teams are doing a dance with each other, seeing if this is going to work out, and it may work out, and it may be the perfect marriage waiting to happen, or it's just going to fizzle away, and then the Jets will find something else, and that could be Lamar. It could be, but the Packers want to make sure they get everything they want out of this deal to make sure they're not getting screwed at the end of the day. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Either way, it sounds like they're going to lose money, though, at the end of it from their cap space. They have to guarantee something to him in order to move him. And Aaron Rodgers is in the perfect position because he knows he doesn't want to be there anymore, but he's going to get the last FU to the Packers when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it sure will. And I like that relationship analogy, because the Jets with the 13th pick, they might want to move up if they don't have Rodgers by then. But I think Rodgers is probably the best fit for that team. And that's a team that is very young, and they need a leader like Aaron Rodgers, whose leadership has definitely been questioned the last 2 years for sure. But he's a guy who had 2 of the best MVP seasons in recent memory at age 37 and 38. I mean, he had 85 touchdowns and 9 picks in a 2-year span, which is ridiculous. I think people forget how efficient he was, the 2 years before this past season.
Yeah, it's true. Literally he had under 10 interceptions each of those years.
Under 10 interceptions total.
Yeah.
The 33 games he played.
It's crazy.
Unbelievable. But it's Aaron Rodgers, and if you're the Jets, I think you just send it and give him that first round pick. If that's really what's stalling them from making this deal, but it's also the Jets as well. I mean, they're known for making bad trades and making, franchise altering mistakes, but everyone in that organization is on board with Aaron Rodgers. So I think the job security of anyone in the New York Jets coaching staff is probably secure. If it's a boom or bust, because the fact that Robert Saleh said today, or not today, but it was recently, the fact that a guy like Aaron Rodgers even wants to play for the Jets just shows how far the organization has come. Yeah, last couple of years.
Yeah,
but
because if this was the New York,
it all goes back to 2020 when the Jets wanted to win 2 of their last 3 games after starting 0-13 for no reason and blew Trevor Lawrence away. It all goes back to that.
Yeah,
they wanted to march into LA and beat 2 playoff teams too as an 0-13 team. They beat the Rams and the Browns, 2 teams that won playoff games that year. They beat them and just got Zach Wilson. The rest is history.
Yeah,
and 2 things were said today actually about this 2021 quarterback draft class. Robert Saleh said that Zach Wilson is the QB2 right now. So regardless of getting Rodgers or not, he will not be the starter next year. We don't enjoy watching Zach Wilson play, which sucks as a Pats fan. I loved playing him. He was so shit.
For real.
And Kyle Shanahan said that, or I don't know if it was Shanahan, but it was John Lynch, I think maybe. He said that Brock Purdy is the QB1, and he's a leader of the clubhouse in San Francisco right now. So Trey Lance, maybe he'll get moved. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. 3rd overall pick. You only started 2 games in your career, or actually 4 games now. He started 2 his rookie year, 2 last year at the beginning of the year. But hey, man, it's just sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And I think the numbers 2 and 3 picks of the 2021 NFL draft have definitely now had their great end of the stick to begin their NFL careers so far.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens with the Aaron Rodgers deal. Likely hopefully for us as NFL fans, we'll get some conclusion by April as to what's going on there. But as of right now, these two teams are still in a standstill in terms of what compensation the Packers will be given in return for Aaron Rodgers. So now we'll group these two together to save some time. Two running backs that have been floated around on the trade market are Austin Eckler and Derrick Henry, both premier franchise backs for the Los Angeles Chargers and the Tennessee Titans. Both players have brought a lot to the table. Eckler taking over the backfield after Melvin Gordon, really, who was the star of the backfield for so long, really just kind of fell from grace. And Eckler became a two-dimensional back that just couldn't be ignored. And then over in Tennessee, Derrick Henry, drafted in the second round the year he was drafted, was behind DeMarco Murray his first year, but showed signs of a stud back. And then when Murray retired, he took over the backfield completely, and he's never looked back. He's just been unbelievable as a stud for the Tennessee Titans. And he's just a ground and pound type of guy, and the type of player you can give the ball to, and he's not going to lose it. If anything, he's just going to gain yards.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, the best three-down back in the league is still Derrick Henry. You could argue Nick Chubb or Dalvin Cook, but Derrick Henry's still that guy. I mean, had a great season last year and somehow still underrated a little bit. 2020, 2,000 yards, 2021. He probably could have done it again, but he got injured after 9 weeks. He had like 900 yards in 9 games, almost 1,000 in 9 games. So, supremely underrated Derrick Henry, I think, in just the history of the National Football League. I think he's the best running back of this generation. But that's why I don't think the Titans are going to trade him, truthfully. I think for a guy like Derrick Henry, he's been their whole offense the last couple of years. I mean, this is a guy. A game that comes to mind is they went to Kansas City last year, and they had the Titans had, I think, 80 pass yards the whole game, and they played like 1920s football with Derrick Henry, and they took the eventual Super Bowl champs to overtime and lost to some Mahomes magic. Derrick Henry's that guy. He always has been. Mm-hmm. And I think for a guy like Derrick Henry, if to trade him, you're going to want a first-round pick. And how many teams are going to want to give up a first-round pick for a running back going to be in his 8th year in the league? Not too many.
No.
Truthfully. He still has it in him, obviously. He still has the juice in him. Austin Eckler's a little more expendable for sure. He's openly said that he wanted to get traded as well. For a guy that's led the league in touchdowns each of the last 2 seasons, I think he definitely is undervalued, underappreciated.
Yeah.
A lot of his stuff is red zone stuff, but there's no better receiving back in the NFL today than Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
He's been a fantasy juggernaut the last couple of years, and he started slow last year too, but really picked it up. It was a huge reason why the Chargers were able to win, I believe, 5 of their last 7 games and make the playoffs. I think that was a 5-5 team. They finished 10-7. So
yeah,
and so I think if they're going to trade Eckler, then they better have a good receiving back up next, or just a similar type of guy, a little prototype Austin Eckler, to try to fill in his shoes, because those are some shoes to fill. I mean, he is very undervalued in that Chargers offense. He's done so much from the last couple of years, like you said, since Melvin Gordon got benched midway through 2019 when he was my RB1 in fantasy. Not going to forgive him. RB2, I think. Yeah, Eckler's a beast. I think he probably will get traded. I don't really know where to. I think he'd be a great fit for the Pats, truthfully. Seen a lot of guys like that on the Patriots over the years, but if he wants to get paid, he's not going to get paid anything more than $10 million a year.
Yeah.
So, Derrick Henry deserves that money, though. He's more proven. Eckler, I don't even think Eckler's had 1,000 yards rushing. So
no, but I mean, it doesn't really matter because he'll get 1,000 yards through scrimmage just from receptions alone. And last year, he actually had one more reception to lead running backs in receptions over Christian McCaffrey. He led in receptions with over 100 on the year.
107.
What's that?
107 receptions, which is crazy for running back, obviously. But a lot of it just dink and dunk.
Yep.
You look at that 722 yards. It's only 6.7 yards a catch. Sure, there was that. Chargers O-line was not that good this year. There was definitely a lot of just quick throws that we're about to get rid of to Eckler, which kind of inflated his numbers a little bit. which he was immediately brought down at the line of scrimmage for sometimes, but he's still a playmaker. He's still so reliable, catching the ball and just running the ball too. I mean, 915 yards on the ground, 722 yards through the air. That's a 1,600 yard season right there, and great running back. So I think he's gonna have to get traded though. He wants the money. Some team will be sucker enough to pay him money.
Yeah.
As opposed to Lamar Jackson, but some team will be giving Austin Eckler, $12, $13 million a year for 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, and for me, that team right now, that is everybody's front runner, is the Chicago Bears. I think he would bring a lot to the Chicago Bears offense because you're bringing back the days of Matt Forte to Chicago if you get Austin Eckler. Sure, he's not a big ground and pound type of guy like Forte was, but he's a speedy, elusive guy who can gain receptions and have a ton of them on the season and bring your offense a lot of production. This team did just lose David Montgomery to the division rival Detroit Lions. So what more to do better than Detroit than to be like, all right, we'll go get a top 5 back that we know is going to give us 10 times the production of David Montgomery.
Is he top 5? You think he's top 5?
I think so. Based on the fact that he can get over 1,000 yards through scrimmage and the fact that he's just a red zone type of guy that is going to be open, Austin Eckler to me is a top 5 back in football. He definitely is. And for Derrick Henry, obviously, in my opinion, top 3 in terms of running backs. Titans are very unlikely to actually move him because they know what he's brought to the table for them. And this is a system that he's been with since he's been drafted. And at this point, I think he's going to be a Titan for life. I don't see him moving whatsoever. But if there were a team that I think would sell a lot for him, is the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills need a back. Sure, they got Damian Harris from the Patriots this year. They signed him on a quick 1-year, $2 million deal. But if you want a back that is going to lead you to the promised land and take Josh Allen and that very talented wide receiver core that they have in Buffalo over that hump, it's a premier back like Derrick Henry. And that's a guy who would help them not only win the East, but potentially the conference itself. That would be a premier spot that I think he could land.
I mean, Derrick Henry to Buffalo?
Yes.
That would disgust me.
It would disgust me too. But I mean, in terms of the team really being like, we need a back. Because like I said, for years with this team, Devin Singletary and Josh Allen are not going to, they can't be your main run game. And Josh Allen especially cannot be. He led the whole backfield in yards last year rushing. You can't have your quarterback do that all the time. And I'm surprised. Dude, I am surprised Josh Allen has not been on the IR yet because he makes a ton of runs.
Yeah.
A ton.
They're
lucky he hasn't gotten hurt. They're lucky.
They are. There were a handful of games where he was their leading rusher, this past season and the year before. But yeah, the books are giving the Bills the best chance for them to be Derrick Henry's next team if he leaves the Titans at plus 300. Dolphins up next at plus 400. So those are 25 to 20% chances, respectively, for those two odds. That would really complete the Bills' offense because a lot of what we talked about the last couple of years, dating back to the Bills' initial AFC Championship loss to the Chiefs when we first started this show, was just the lack of a run game. They couldn't run the ball at all that game 2 years ago, and they've still been struggling to find that 3-down back the last couple of years. I mean, they have good receivers, they have a franchise quarterback, very talented defense. They're always slated atop the odds for who will win the Super Bowl next year. I think Derrick Henry going to that team, if he plays all 17 games for that Bills team, that team could go 14-3, 15-2. I know. I hate to jump on the Bills bandwagon. I really hate it. I hate the Bills, truthfully.
I do too.
Let's be honest. If Derrick Henry's on that team, they have a legitimate run game. They can take a lot of pressure off of Josh Allen and his running ability and, kind of run us up the pass in a lot of situations. I mean, that team would be scary. That'd be a nearly unbeatable, unguardable offense with Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, even Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie too. He's cheeky in the slot.
McKenzie's gone now.
He's gone now, huh?
Yeah.
Where'd he go?
Let me see. Isaiah McKenzie. Colts.
It's on the Colts. Wow. Okay. Anyways, whatever, man. And the The Bills have that late first round pick. They could probably give up that pick and feel confident about it. They're picking like 26th in the draft, something 27th maybe, something like that. So
I think if they wanted to get Henry, they probably have to give up a future first round pick as well, just to secure the deal.
I don't think you don't give up 2 first round picks for a 30-year-old back. That could probably take one first rounder.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of these guys who are first round picks, hit or miss, boom or bust. And especially in the later parts of the first rounds, a lot of them don't really pan out to do all that much in the NFL. Derrick Henry's proven he's a beast. It has been very durable. Sure, he had that one injury problem in 2021, but he came back for the playoffs after breaking his foot. I mean, still got 25 touches that game.
Yeah.
In the loss to the Bengals. So I think you make a move for him if you're Buffalo. Or if you're any other team who has a reasonable pick that you want to give up. Because I think if you are trading for Derrick Henry, the Titans probably want a first round pick. This is their 2,000-yard rusher, offensive player of the year right here. And he's been the face of the franchise for the last 4 seasons now. So, oh man, dude, that's crazy. I actually never really thought about him going to the Bills, but that'd be scary for the AFC.
It would be. It would basically mean the Bills would be the immediate front runner to win the whole thing again, like last year. But
but hey, they're still the Bills. They still sell at home in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They didn't just sell this year. They got destroyed against the Bengals. They weren't in that game for a second of that game.
And I loved every second of it.
I loved it. It was great. Bengals.
And I can't believe it. I jumped on the Bills bandwagon at the end of the year.
Bengals
Hardcore.
plus 5.5 was such a lock. That was the freest bet all postseason. Like there was no world that the Bills should have been -6 that game. None.
Still wish the Bengals went back to the Super Bowl. I really do.
I don't, because we would have had. I think the Bengals would have lost to the Birds probably. No, I think they probably could have won that game. It would have been a good game. I think whoever made it from the AFC.
Yeah.
But I was saying before the game, whoever made it from the AFC was going to win the Super Bowl. But
it's too talented.
With the way the Birds play in the Super Bowl, maybe they would have beaten the Bengals. But I mean, that AFC Championship was rigged this year. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Maybe not rigged, but there were so many questionable calls in favor of the Chiefs. The last call was the right call. Unsportsmanlike conduct was certainly the right call, but everything else about that game was really.
It was just a little something was off.
The Bills get Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's where the script memes came out. Was that game?
Yeah,
the NFL script. Yeah, the script was written perfect.
The script memes were awesome. I miss them. We're gonna get them back next year, hopefully. So
100%. And what better that the NFL, like the NFL owners, are gonna vote Roger Goodell in for an extension. I love that, don't you? Because I absolutely love it.
Can you say that one more time?
I love, in quotations, the fact that NFL owners are going to sign, basically group together and get Roger Goodell an extension as commissioner. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Extend him?
Yeah, they're going to keep. They want him to be the commissioner still.
I like Goodell.
I'm not crazy about Goodell.
We're Pats fans who are a little bit biased, but he makes the league better, truthfully. He has to do a lot of work, a lot of negotiations here and there.
Yeah, he really likes. He works very hard writing those scripts. I'll tell you.
I know he does. He has some great editors, great proofreaders, just all around. Just good entourage of script.
Perfect word for it. A great entourage of people on his back.
Help around the script, and you can't do without your teammates in life. That's what life's all about. You can't do without your teammates. So. Shout out to Mr. Goodell.
Yeah, big shout out to Roger Goodell. We love the scripts you write every season. Anyways, that concludes our NFL segment. We'll move into the last 15 minutes to talk about the NCAA tournament for men's college basketball, because March Madness this year has been the maddest I have seen in a very long time. Last year, we saw a lot of great teams go up, a lot of very interesting teams like Oh, what was that team? They were 16th seed last year. I'm trying to remember. They
Oh,
made it.
St. Peter's 15,
Yes,
15 seed.
St. Peter's coming out of nowhere, but they were the truly only upset team that you could really think of this year. The Final Four is the craziest I have ever seen in a while.
Yeah, no,
Last
for
year,
real.
the number 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks winning the whole thing against UNC. That was a great game, but this year could be even greater. This year for the Final Four, you got over there. I'm trying to scroll there right now. Playing off in Houston for both sides, you got San Diego State taking on Florida Atlantic University, and then Miami taking on the University of Connecticut. A lot of great, just amazing matchups here. But teams like Texas, like Alabama, Houston, Marquette, Xavier, great schools out there that should be in this conversation potentially are just not here. They lose in the biggest of moments. Even Kansas State. What the hell went on in that game that made Kansas State sell? It was just nuts. Nuts. And these teams have proven that they are underdogs. UConn's probably the only team, and Miami, I guess, in a way, that are proven. But FAU and San Diego State, these are teams that we just didn't expect to make it.
It's crazy because one of those teams will play in the championship, and no one thought that. I mean, crazy that we have no seed higher than 4 in the Final Four, which is unprecedented. Even when Baylor won the other year, I was kind of surprised as a 3 seed. But now we have, 4 teams. I mean, you can argue.
Who did Baylor beat? Who did they beat?
Baylor beat the undefeated Gonzaga.
That's right. Yeah.
It was like 30. It was like 33-0, 35-0, or something like that. I don't even remember. I was reading about today actually. So it was like 30. I mean, they had like a lot of games canceled because of COVID. So I think it was like 31-1 was their final record. But we have all the blue bloods out. Last year we had a Final Four of UNC, Kansas, Villanova, and I think it was Duke, right?
Yes, Duke played UNC.
Yeah. And then UNC won.
Coach K's last game.
That was a big Matt Durkee, Big Tex rivalry game.
That was.
Texas, a big Duke fan. Dirk likes UNC. UNC was an 8 seed last year, which was dope, but they got in the dance as well. But this year, Florida Atlantic in their second ever NCAA tournament appearance. They had never won a game before this year. They're in the Final Four. San Diego State, they've had good players in their history, like Kawhi Leonard, who went to SDSU. But they never made it this far. University of Miami, their first Final Four. I mean, big football school for many years. Basketball really not in their identity, but now here we are in the UConn, who's won it twice in the last 12 years. They're always in it, but we haven't seen them in it like this in quite a while. So it's just very refreshing for just sports fans in general, let alone college basketball fans, to see teams like this in the Final Four. And it's just crazy that Florida Atlantic and SDSU, one of those teams, will play for the national championship. Unbelievable. And we've seen a lot of good outings from these teams. I mean, SDSU with a great run. They beat Creighton just barely yesterday.
That was a tough sell. Creighton, honestly, I watched the end of that game, and Creighton, they sold so many shots, dude, that they should have made, but they rushed them a lot. And then they made stupid fouls in the end of it. I was just like, what's going on? Like, especially like that ending one to set up the free throw. Oh my God. That was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, that was tough, dude. That was tough. Yeah, that was bad. That was one of the worst fouls probably in the history of March Madness. But just for the situation it was. But also, I mean, Florida Atlantic, it's a team that snuck by a lot of games. They just barely beat Memphis by 1 in the first round. They got lucky and played a 16 seed round 2 with Purdue losing. Then they beat Tennessee and Kansas State by 7 points apiece each of those games, or 7 points, then 3 points. So that's going to be a great game, I think, between those two teams fighting for their first championship appearance, each of their first Final Four appearances. But then on the other end, Miami. I mean, Miami yesterday, they were down, I think, 10 at halftime. They were down 8 at halftime. They put up 51 points in the second half against Texas. And Texas was probably the favorite,
to win it all.
24 hours ago, at the middle of the game yesterday, 26 hours ago. But hey, they sold. And Miami just with some huge plays. UConn too. UConn just absolutely destroyed Gonzaga the other day on
Steamroll
Saturday night.
Marys.
They beat them by almost 30 points. So these are 4 teams with great stories this tournament. And I'll be cool with whoever wins it, except for FAU, because FAU had that unsportsmanlike slam dunk at the end of the game 2 days ago. But nah, if FAU won it, that would be absurd. I would not mind if they won it. As a 9 seed, I think the lowest seeded team we see win it is an 8 seed. I think it was Villanova in 1985.
Wow.
So, FAU would be the ultimate, probably biggest of all time Cinderella story in March Madness history.
And that's a school that's never ever made March Madness, I'm pretty sure.
They made it in 2002. So it's been 21 years since they last made it.
Insane.
It's been a legal person to booze amount of years since they last made it.
And then, of course,
they didn't win a game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the only team with the true resume has been the UConn Huskies, because this team, they're 4-time national champions of the NCAA. Obviously, 3 of them have come in recent memory, but for Dan Hurley, this is the first time that this team has actually looked like a championship winning team. They just have great stars all over the floor. Their bench is stacked. Just they have a great balance of talent on that team. It's just all set up perfectly well. For me right now, they're my favorite to win the whole thing. And I mean, it pains me to say that because, of course, you and me as Rams know, Rams fans, Dan Hurley was the head coach of the URI Rams and brought them to the tournament twice. And then after the second time, they couldn't come to a contractual agreement. He ended up signing with UConn. The program ended up getting moved to the Big East a couple years later. It was tough growing pains for them getting into it, but eventually they've become, if not the best team of the bunch. They really have. I mean, sure, Marquette and Xavier and Creighton have proven to be very tough competitors. The Big East got a lot tougher this past year, but UConn has just been the most consistent team of the bunch, and that's why they're here right now. And for me, I mean, Miami's
right now too.
Miami definitely is going to be a challenge because they've taken down some really, really good teams this postseason. I mean, taking down Texas, taking down Houston. Houston, they won 89-75. That's crazy.
SDSU beat Alabama the same day. Another number 1 seed. That was my prediction for the championship was Alabama, Houston. Both got wiped out the same day.
Yeah.
So
absolutely insane. And then, of course, like you said, with Florida Atlantic. And then even with the SDSU, these schools, they're very small programs, but they have somehow just done it this year. And it's a Cinderella dance that I just would never imagine. So, I mean, as of right now, my picks, obviously I have UConn winning the national championship. But for my national championship game, I'm going to take UConn going up against San Diego State. And I have UConn taking it.
I'm going to say San Diego State and UConn. Give me SDSU. The Cinderella is going to include SDSU victory. Shout out to my boy Owen Dubois goes to SDSU.
Wow. I didn't expect that.
The only kid I know from SDSU is him. So you have to give him a quick shout out. I still like Connecticut, man. TBH. I don't really like the state. So give me SDSU. I would pick FAU, but I think there's time I come to then. SDSU has been hot. I mean, I picked them against Alabama live on Friday night. And they came out and they went on this crazy run in that game. They have the ability to take over games in situations where they're trailing. I think they were down as much as 7 in that game at one point. And they went on a third. No, they were down 48-39. They went on a 13-0 run to give them the lead, and they never looked back. So that kind of gave me a lot of respect for them. I want them to be the national champions. So give me SDSU. The Aztecs, give it to me.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting pick right there. I mean, we didn't get to discuss it much this year. We did a lot of coverage last year. This year has just been so wild. It's just been tough to keep up with, but March Madness coming to a conclusion. Both Final Four games will start Saturday, and then I believe Sunday or Monday, probably Monday, will be the national championship.
Yep, Monday will be, yep. It's always on a Monday.
So we might have to do a show next Monday.
We might have to. We'll preview. And hopefully our prediction is right for the game, so we can put up money between me and you on SDSU and UConn. Or if it's UConn Miami, I think Miami has a chance. I think it might be Miami SDSU.
It could be.
I say that, but I'll give some Dan Hurley URI respect in that regard for now. We'll see.
Yeah, and especially since it's from, it's in the New England area. It's a team to root for, I guess.
No,
but hey,
Connecticut's not New England, bro. That part Connecticut's New Englandy, but no, we're canceling Connecticut, part of New England. You're a Rhode Islander. You can't be calling Connecticut New England. You went to URI. You know these kids are not New Englanders.
It's true. They're true.
Phony.
And Hurley did take a bunch of our kids who aren't on the team anymore, obviously, but he took a bunch of them to UConn. So it's like, all right.
Can you blame him? It's more lit than URI.
It's true. I mean,
better bars. There's better basketball.
Well, I mean, as far as I know for UConn, there's absolutely nothing there.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like my parents were telling me.
I'm just assuming because URI's med. So
yeah, it's just like because my parents, because like when I was looking around for like media jobs and stuff, they were like, oh, maybe you should. I was like, oh, maybe I'll check out UConn because they have a good basketball program. They're like, you wouldn't like living around there. There's nothing. Like it's literally the campus is in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
Oh yeah, like it's in the sticks. Like I've driven past it.
That's pretty New Englandy then.
I've passed through it. Like because dude, it's very close. It's not far from here. Yeah, that's not far at all.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, so it's like it's a quick drive. It's not far, but like at the end of the day, it's like, do you really want to be in Connecticut? No, not really. There's nothing in Connecticut.
Nah.
But that'll do it for this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We, of course, thank you all for tuning in to tonight's show. And we're definitely going to give you some preview next week. And I'm going to hold us to that. We're definitely going to be here to talk about the national championship game. And of course, more NFL offseason talk because news always develops each week. And of course, the MLB season starts March 30th. That's 3 days from now. Baseball will be back officially. So there'll be some talk there. Obviously not much since the season will start. But until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we will catch you all on next week's episode. But as always, until then, go Pats.